history of the textile industry of India is really fascinating. Particularly, I go back to the First World War period. During that period, and much before that, probably a few hundred years back, India was supplying to the world, to the whole world, a variety of things, including textiles. And India was one of the largest exporters of textiles to the whole world. Then what happened was there was this war, and the Britishers were practically in charge of India with their British India Trading Company, East India Trading Company in Calcutta, and they slowly started controlling our economy. There are textile mills, a number of mills in UK, and I'm talking particularly UK because they played a major part, and realized, oh, what a large number of textiles India is exporting. And almost, you could say at that time, 99% of the textiles was made by the handloom industry. So they said, we must do something for this handloom industry people. So first is, they said, during the time of Clive and other people, okay, how do we control this India producing more and more of these textiles? So they did all sorts of things, bringing controls of them, putting some taxes and so on. And India was very famous for Dakke Malmal. This was practically a transparent cloth, and so soft, so many stories on this Dakke Malmal. What Aurangzeb got very angry when his daughter was wearing this, and so on. So, but then this, what they did was, and this is a fact which is all confirmed, they started chopping off the thumbs of our weavers. They were ruling the country, and particularly this Robert Clive was a very, not a good person. And this Dakke Malmal was produced actually in the Bangladesh area. Most of it was coming. This was one. Then they started levying taxes on handloom weavers. So then it went on this way. Handloom weavers were very bad shape. Added to this was a huge famine. And just then, by then, the Britishers were about to hand over the power to India. And then globally they were getting a bad name, so many millions Indians dying of starvation. So they formed a committee to how to solve this problem. This committee, what they did was they invited 3 or 4 leading handloom leaders called, with names I have mentioned, so I don't want to bore you with that. And also the mill owners, both Indian as well as the British. Then the suggestion was, the way we can help the handloom industry or the farmers is give them some fabric which they can only produce. Others cannot produce. And they said, what is that only the handloom can produce? They decided, okay, the saris made from border will be reserved exclusively for the handloom industry. And the mills should not produce this. Then the big meeting was called, all the handloom weavers are there. There was Sir Frederick Stone, an stout English gentleman, managing director of the David Sassoon mill of those area, now India United it is called. And he got up and said, no, what is this giving help to the handloom industry? They are competing with us. Their cost of production is low. On the other hand, the government should give us, the mill owners, all the help for us. And then he said, they have copied our designs over a period of time. There, one practically a villager who was a handloom weaver with the usual Indian handloom dress, who could barely speak English, got up and Sir, this Mr. Velodi was the chairman at that ICS guy of those days. This man got up and pointing out to Sir Frederick Stone, he says, "Sir, I do not know who this man is. He says we have copied his design. We have copied his design. He must know we have clothed his father and grandfather in that meeting." So that whole thing was passed unanimously, the reservation. Then the handloom weavers started producing, the cooperatives were formed, and cooperative spinning mills were formed. There was also a lobby all the time, different lobbies naturally, which happens. And this was the earlier part of the handloom industry. Then came, the mills. Unfortunately, this is a truth. Our businessmen, we can't say it in public. They did something's very wrong, because handloom industry, what they used to do, even now you will find in Bhiwandi and other places, you will know. The government had put some rules for the handloom industry. One man cannot have more than 4 looms. So how they can get over this was those people and from certain parts of India, in one big room, they would put a chalk piece. And in that chalk piece, there will be 8, 10, 12 looms and so on. This belongs to names, any name is come. They would say, "Bola na kuch naam." They would put down that they are all the owners and so on. So once again, the handloom weavers were affected. How can you compete? Their productions of the power loom was so high. The power loom weavers took over this handloom, and this problem has existed for years and years. And different people, in their heart of hearts, and more so the politicians, did want to help the handloom weaver. But their problem was, not problem, why they were so interested was, in any village, the people who are opinion makers are school teachers, even a barber or anybody, and handloom weaver were most popular. So they would bring in votes to any political party. So these political parties were interested in seeing what to do for the handloom industry. Then, of course, many things happened. Thereafter, the government said, "Okay, this is not improving. Let us appoint a committee," as usual. They appointed a committee called the Kanungo Committee to go into the problems of the handloom industry, to help them. So this was also discussed among some bureaucrats and all that. Said the only way this can be done is all the handloom weavers should be converted into power looms, because this way they cannot exist. Production is high. There'll be a lot of value addition. So that was reported. Then immediately that was announced. Once again the handloom weavers went on strike. They said, "No, it should not be done." And then these handloom weavers, led by one of my friends, Mr. Somappa, later on he became a very famous man. In the very first Padma Shri which was given, he was given the award in the first Padma Shri. So he had press conferences all over India and said, "No, this should not be done." And he went to, they sought an appointment with Jawaharlal Nehru. And this handloom weavers, they went to meet him. And as soon as they entered the room, Nehru was very angry. And he said, red in his face. And even without allowing them to talk first, he says, "What are you people doing? Going around all over the country, talking, we are trying to do something good, you are talking against us and all." So this Mr. Somappa listened very carefully, nicely to him. This man also said, Nehru said, in these days of Sputnik, you still want to go in bullock carts and all. So then this man got up after Nehru had calmed down a little bit. He said, "Panditji, we don't want to," in his own typical way, half English, half Hindi, "we don't want to go in bullock cart. We want to fly," he said. So Nehru looked at him and said, "What do you mean by saying we want to go to fly? Sir, have you realized how many handlooms are there in this country? So many millions and millions of handlooms. If they were to be converted into powerloom, how many lakhs and lakhs of crores of money would be required? And do you have the money? You give us. We will fly like you," he said to Nehru. And they were so bold, true Indians, too spirited, and the conviction that they had. Then that scheme was scrapped. And then they said, "Okay, we will modernize by introducing some processing and so on." But to tell you that each politician at the highest level wanted their votes, which was the main thing. Then they had gone to, subsequently the problems that continued. They went to meet Indira Gandhi. And Indira Gandhi is a very typical politician. They said, "We have all the sympathies for you and all." This man said, "Madam, we are drowning with all your sympathies." And she said, "No, we will, why reserve saris? We will also reserve dhotis." She was very smart, very clever. And he said, "Where your son and my son are wearing dhotis, what the use of your giving reservation for dhotis," and so on. Like that. Morarji Desai and all, each of them in their own way. And this is worth knowing. What they did was Morarji Desai introduced excise duty on yarn. Then small excise duty, 25 paisa per bundle of yarn. Again, these people went for agitation. No, handlooms cannot pay. Went to meet Morarji Desai. But we have to also admire these politicians. They were honest, their thinking. He said, "Sir, you have introduced this." He said, "After all, what is it we have introduced? Some 25 paise per bundle of yarn, and you people are making big hesitation." He said, "Yes, Morarji bhai, 25 paisa is a small amount. For a weaver earning 1 rupee, it is a big amount." Immediately, see, look at the greatness of these people. He called Morarji secretary, revenue secretary, and he said, "Look, this is what they are paying about this same scheme." So this is one part of the story. Then the modernization and all came in. And this is also very interesting. One person we have to be grateful for this prosperity and modernization is Abid Hussain, who later on became Indian ambassador in America. Now, what had happened was that old government had gone, and VP Singh and all had come. There was also an association formed by local industries, Mr. Modi and others, called the All India Association of 100% EOU, where all 100% EOU people were sort of supposed to be members. And I was the vice president at that time. And at that time, in a meeting, they said, "Mr. Anand, you are connected with textile. why don't you help exports and all that. And this EOU scheme we have introduced and all. I said, okay, let us see what can be done. This is all very interesting and very political things. So then what happened, the chief minister of Maharashtra, elections were coming, they had wanted to set up a spinning mill which would give employment to people and all that. Then the mill building was ready, everything, but no money. But again, IFCI, who were canvassing cooperative spinning mills, were not allowed to finance cooperative spinning mills at that time. And then one of their persons said, what is to be done? Again, that was converted into EOU, and that's how India's first EOU was born. And in all this, Eastern, three defining moments in the history of the textile was due to Eastern. One is the first, India's first EOU in spinning. First in air engineering about Lua. The third is terry towel. And India is famous for these products now and huge exports. You know, with requirements of the textiles in the country, many industrialists had started thinking of setting up textile mills. But earlier to that, a couple of well-known families whose names I have mentioned also set up the first mill, which was a successful one. And their 100th year was also celebrated in a big way in India. In fact, one very good book which was published, which unfortunately is no longer available, is by Indian Textile Journal at that time were in existence. Such a thick book. Even the one copy I had, there was a fire and it got destroyed in my office. And that gives a lot of the industrialists of that time. So more and more mills started coming up. And then there was slowly requirement of spare parts and so on, instead of importing from, particularly from England. Some people, and Indians are entrepreneurs. They started manufacturing these things in Ahmedabad and other places. And later on, they said, okay, why not we make the full machines itself? In a textile mill, there are spinning mill, there are 2 or 3 machines which value of which is almost 65% of the entire investment. That was the ring frame, the rowing machines, and winding and so on. Now, the first machine they thought of producing was by an engineering genius in Coimbatore. His name was Balasubramaniam. Balasubramaniam was also very, very close with the Lakshmi family. Maybe they were related, I'm not very sure on that. And then he said, I can produce a ring frame. And being a genius, what happened was, he established a company called the Textile Company. Now, and started producing the ring frame. People were anxious to buy because much cheaper and workable. So he went on producing. But then at some point of time, of course, the other part, he would say, being a genius, I can do everything, I can produce a plane like that. Not eccentric, but he was a very nice guy. I mean, they said, we have to, by that time, the first machines had started coming from Europe, you know, from Platts and Ritter and all, and a huge difference in quality. So Mr. Devrajlu said, Bala, now, you know, why not we take collaboration with a company called Ritter? I've spoken to some people, they are willing to collaborate. Then this Balasubramaniam said, no, why I should collaborate with my machine is much better. And the smartness of Devrajlu was, okay, Bala, what you do is, you run the textile and my brother Sundaram will also help you, like what we are doing. But now he will take care and let me start with Reater. He said, okay, you do what you want and all that. That was the first real quality machines produced in India. And I must say this, the Swiss and the Germans, when they give a collaboration, they give it from the heart.
Yeah.
You know, no hanky-panky, no over-invoicing. They want to produce the quality of these machines. Just to give you some thing about Indian entrepreneurship quality and all that. When textile got into, with this Balasubramaniam, what do you expect? Got into trouble and all that. There were some very bright engineers there. One engineer who was able to design also and all that, Thiruvenkat Swami was his name. This Thiruvenkat Swami, then somewhere here Dandalia's poor chap lost his job and all. So one mill owner from Udarmalpet, Soundarajan said, I say, look at my mill, there's some problem, you solve it and all. This chap, brilliant guy, he used his brain, solved it, attached it and all, started working beautifully. And the Reater guys said they should see, it is working beautifully and all. Incorporate this in the new supply. They said, no, this will never work and all that. And anyway, this Soundarajan said, okay, I will carry on with this modification and so on. Then one mill here in Bombay wanted a rowing machine. Again, very difficult. In those days you required REP licenses, which the government was not coming. So I called this Thiruvenkat Swami guy to Bombay. Can you make a rowing machine? He said, I can make it. And he was the first one to produce a rowing machine in India.
Viewers, we have seen Mr. R. Anand having more than decades of experience of textile industry, was pioneer in bringing best technology from Europe to Indian market, also was instrumental in having various joint ventures in India and representing many leading suppliers from Europe in India when there was nothing in India. It was great insight of what has happened pre-independence, post-independence, and that too even now after pandemic. So he has given us full information about how things have happened with Indian textile industry. At the same time, next generation from him, that is his daughter Shilpa, has also interacted with us and come out with new concepts in textile industry, having manufacturing setup for Ferrari fans, as well as some new things which has happened in other industry. They are supplying to those machinery as well. So in nutshell, Eastern has laid a good foundation for the Indian textile industry as far as machinery division is concerned. So textile engineering was the DNA in Eastern, that is of Mr. R. Anand, and he has helped the entire industry to do certain good things. Thank you very much for this session.